I was going through some stressful situation. Living life, it's natural. I don't avoid it anymore because life, by definition, is going through difficulties. As much as we are born out of dust, like a miracle, how can this be that I'm here? And reflecting my life, going through various experiences. In my case, it's related to Zen, Buddhism, meditation, but also connected to Christianity or Sufi and others where people talk about God. And it's not God per se, if I say it, it's just the quality of what happens and what I experienced. I thought precisely point that this is the moment that I can say that I'm meeting God or I met God yesterday. So I want to talk about it. The reason is just to capture the essence of it because I have been posting various videos over several months at least, but even more before the COVID hit us. I remember posting a video on my reflecting at age 70 or something titled Appreciation of Life. I thought when I die, if I can say thank you for my existence, that's the same as appreciation of being alive. And being alive is miracle, like I pointed out. And just recently I posted a video about inversion, where I mentioned about my experience of um, some difficulty, and then I realized that that difficulty I face is just a small part of life in my mind, and although that may have impact on me in terms of the future, but I thought I can accept it because if there's nothing you can do and you do your best, then you get to such a point. Also, at the time, I thought that I may think like that, that I get suffering or frustration or stress, but just look at it. If you invert inversion, going back to when we were in the cave, funny example, and something happens, and if you're responsible, you feel very depressed because maybe there's lack of water or fire or food, whatever the case is. And if you come from that background, all of a sudden popping up in this situation where I am, I'm very sure that that experience of coming from such a background, which we all have had over generations and generations ago. But when you come to this state and look at what I've got in terms of the chair, even TV screen or computer, information on my tip, and I have a cozy place. There's a roof, window, even some view, and the singing of bird. So we may feel confined at times, but there's opening, and that's one of the video I talked about. That door is open. It's already open. We want to open the door using our mind and trying and think why it doesn't work. It's horrible. But at the same time, the other part that you look behind, then maybe the door is open. And that experience is paradoxical because you cannot solve it in your mind. But if you have had such experience of trying, nothing works, but all of a sudden something happens and you gain insight and solve the problem, you start to realize there's unknown power within us. And related to those, I also posted a video about being sincere and truthful. Those are two important words for me that I promised that I want to keep it as long as I live, because that shows my attitude of being open and sincere. Being sincere and truthful means you don't push your thought too much. Just accept whatever comes, sincerely, truthfully working, and whatever the end result is. I think I can say that I accept it. One example I posted on one video was about my near-death experience, or facing death, maybe proper term. And for whatever the reason, I felt dizzy. I thought I may die. Seriously, I was serious to find that, okay, if I lay down and close my eyes, I may not wake up because I felt dizzy. It turned out to be not the major problem, as a matter of fact, but at the time I accepted and I felt I did all I could and I can accept the situation. There's no regret. There's nothing more I'm clinging on, so I accept. So that's also connected to that sincerity and truthfulness. Another thought, all I'm saying here is that I'm pointing those various ideas that I went through, and that's all connected to this discussion about God and meeting. In any case, the other video I posted was Calm and Quiet Mind, related to the meditation. In there we study or understand, in this case, Buddha's teaching, Sila Samadhi Panya. If we do whatever we think is right conduct, and have a calm and quiet mind, we'll bring out the wisdom to live a life better. Even if you have difficulty, accept it, maintain calm and quiet mind, or be aware and equanimous, then you find the solution, the wisdom. That sounds like a gimmick, but this happened to me 20 years ago or so, to experience the power of that acceptance and let things to happen. Another video I mentioned was two universes. One is a universe within our mind, and we think that's the whole universe, but there's other universe. Mind is not everything. Mind has its own limitation. It has logics and words and configuring this and that and benefit us to live well. But there are certain issues when you face death or any difficulty beyond your control, you may find the mind cannot do anything. And that's when we realize that knocking the door doesn't open. But when you realize it, you find the door is already open. So those are pointing that there's something else or someone else, or perhaps you can call that someone as God, offering the help for us. If we are sincere and truthful, accept whatever comes in our way, and appreciate the fact that we can live, then we see that we are in a different space. And the logic cannot explain, mind cannot explain well, they can point, discuss, share ideas related to that. But at the end is for each individual's realization. They call it the self-realization. You realize your own self, what it is, what's the limitation, what can be beyond that to solve the problem you may have. So the experience is pointing that there's not the power that we've got that lead us to be in the state of opening the other universe, see the light or appreciating the life energy, and that is bringing us to be alive. And we can complain if things don't work from the mind, but the force, if I call that makes us to live, if we realize that, we realize that without us trying hard, we are already saved. And that's again is paradoxical, because the mind cannot accept such a statement. Mind is trying, figuring out. But this is beyond that trying, is another world that we can feel comfortable about and find ourselves, realize ourselves, and be free from the constraints of the mind. And be happy in the sense of not constrained by any situation, that you can accept hard situation, good situation. And actually there's one quote that I can think about. Mind may change its own way of going this way and that way, but when we realize our true nature, there's no joy or sorrow. And that appealed to me. And it sounds quite contradictory, because you're supposed to feel joy or sorrow as human, and we do. Yet when you are really at peace, you are as if you are in the hands of God or held, or you're immersed in the love of God, whatever the expression is, no matter what condition you are in. I think it was William James from Harvard who talked about the experience of religious experience or something, I forgot the title. And they're full of those stories. I read those, and that stayed in me somewhere. And yesterday, I figured out that those are pointing the same point of what I've been experiencing. And you can use the word God to share this experience, except the word God has been a little bit awkward for me to bring into, because it sounds like a different identity compared to me identity. But in fact, if I use more of a Zen or Buddhist expression, God may be that emptiness, the whole unknown is God. And that makes sense, because if it's God is infinite and has that amazing power to make us to live, appreciate, feel we are saved without us doing anything, of course that's a miracle. So this experience is the ultimate point of us being a human, if we get there. And what I said and felt that I experienced, and I can say something about it that I felt yesterday, I really felt like it. Just a few weeks ago, I may have posted this in the video that I was out walking, starting to walk, and then I looked up the sky and I felt the sky was talking to me. So there's something we don't see, or we see that but don't really see, when our eyes are open or we are ready. Then you you connect with that. So let's try another example of the Zen approach of explaining the paradox. Mind is like ripples or waves, but down deep in the ocean, there's a space or time beyond time, quietness there. It's water down there, the water up at the wave level on the surface. The waves are the movement of the mind, but when the mind is clear, calm and quiet, then you are as if in the middle of the ocean, floating, you being melted into that space. You may call it nature. By the way, I posted the video about melting into nature. That's the same thing. Mind, busy person, I am, at occasion, of course, can be free from that. When you notice, another video on the breathing. Focus in breathing, in and out. In that moment, you realize that vast emptiness, or no mind, no chattering of the words, or the space between words, some may explain. And you notice that. And then you feel free. Another video, be free as we are. As we are meaning we are as if just born like a baby. Beginner's mind. Mind not catching this and that, but letting go, accept, and be with the surroundings as part of the nature. So those experiences over time, I posted various angles and perspectives and moment depending upon where I was. Meeting lawyer, meeting woman, having difficulty with the immigration process or bureaucracy, or difficulty in communicating a point with some other person because of the background being different and the way to look at the world may be different. Those cases are just the ripples and waves within the mind. As soon as you realize you are water, you are the ocean, the perspective is different, and you go beyond the paradox, if I can say so. There's impossibility from the way the mind functions that there is such a peace, because mind's job is to keep busy to figure out. But once you settle, you realize, or you may realize, that the quality there is what we came from the dust of the universe, and as we are. So as much as us being human, we can relate to the source of us being the human. That's when we have the door open and accept, and you melt into what's going on with the nature or whatever the circumstance we go in. In words, sentences, the expression that I went through may not trigger anything, but the reason of my doing this is just to share as if I'm talking to the emptiness, which means God, in a way, not the audience of humans, because this is the relationship of me to that empty space or God, whatever you call it. We may be busy within our life to find the solution among us. That's part of what we strive to and to live better. There's another relationship that we can find and find peace and have a quite different angle, perspective to look at the world or the life and appreciate, feeling that it is okay, even if it is not. That mind may say it's not, but it is okay. So that's the experience, and we may all have that experience. We just may not realize as such. But more we realize and appreciate, I think, I guess at least my experience point, that the facing the absolute or infinite power or the source of who we are and connect to that is a very miraculous experience only human can have. That's what I feel. So of course when I die, I'm melting into nature as much as I can melt into nature now. So either case, in suffering or living or dying, we have that as a base. Especially when we have calm and quiet mind, you notice that and appreciate that. Appreciate that we are already saved. And I believe talking like that to me is kind of like a confession, but also for me to strengthen my connection to the other world, the source of where we came from, while we live, so that we live our life in the hopefully a meaningful manner. Meaningful in the sense of connecting to that ultimate power you call God. Thank you.